and marketing. And I'm just going to talk today about really the importance of listening online and how much you can find out. A lot of people, when they think about social media, think about broadcasting. They think about what can I say? And in fact, I get asked 3 questions about social media over and over again. The first most asked question is, how much time is it going to take me? Because none of us have got enough time to do it, or to do it well. The second question is, what will I say? And the third question is, how will I know it's working? But I would say before you think about what you're going to say, social media is open, the internet is open. You can go and spy on your competitors, you can go and look at what other people are doing, you can have a look at other people's ideas. Here you go, Phil. My last handout. Let's see how accurately I predicted. So I'm going to really talk to you today just for half an hour, maybe even 20 minutes of questions and answers, just a few slides, and then introduce what I've given to you there, which is a virtual peer map, which I created as a model when I ran my own social media agency, Reach Further. This was a model that we used to demonstrate how you could, and to put a practical framework around, how you could use the internet and social media for establishing your position in the marketplace. So I called it a virtual peer map, because what you might end up doing, especially if you stay till the afternoon, is we will work on who is in your virtual peer map, and you'll get an idea of how to listen and look online in order to inform your own social media strategy. So before we get to that, I'm going to introduce you to LIFE. I'm a great one for creating mnemonics. So LIFE stands for listen, identify, focus, and engage. And we're going to go through those steps. All of the tools I'll show you today are freemium tools. That means they're free to use, either for a certain amount of time or for a certain number of followers or whatever it is, but you can pay to upgrade them to premium, hence the word freemium. So let's have a look at the first one, which is listening. Okay, so some of you may have seen me tweet this morning. If I go to my own Twitter stream, one of the things I tweeted about this morning, if I look at my own profile, as well as tweeting about today, obviously, I found out about 2 things. One was an interactive fiction, and it's a competition to write interactive fiction around Homer's Odyssey. I thought, gosh, some of my students would be interested in that, so I tweeted it on the class hashtag. Also, I found out about an interactive fiction book club. So instead of having a book to read every month, they're going to read and talk about a piece of interactive fiction. And it's just starting. And I know Eli's really interested in that, perhaps some of my other students as well. And the way I found out about these things was not through Googling or browsing or in any way searching. It was through using a tool called Talkwalker Alerts that allows me just to say, hey, if anything comes up on this topic, let me know. So Talkwalker is a paid-for platform. It has all sorts of depth to it, but there is a free bit which is called Talkwalker Alerts, and that allows you to set up. I should have logged in earlier. This is where I forget my password in public. Let's see. The other thing I set it up for is mentions of myself. So we've got, here we are. You can see these are all the alerts I've created. So if anybody talks about me, Liz Cable, one of those should be, there we are, Liz Cable. I've got interactive fiction but minus video game. I'm not interested in video games, so I'm using Google's search terms and Talkwalker search terms to make sure I'm picking up what I'm interested in. So I'm interested in the sharing economy, but only in the UK. I'm interested in escape rooms, or room escapes, or escape games, but again, only in the UK. And I've excluded this site, which seems to be a bit of a, well, it's called News Dump, and that's what it is. So really being very particular about the searches I want. And I can go and change the searches if it starts picking up irrelevant stuff. But it means I'm finding things. The net is coming to me. I'm not having to go out and search those interactive fiction alerts. You know, I'm teaching a class in it next year at second year. Some of you will be able to come to that class. And it just means I know I'm getting all of the current information. So you might like to use that too. Is there anything that you go and Google on a regular basis? Are you making sure that you are looking for mentions of your own blog or your own website or your own business? Again, you can set TalkWalker alerts for any of these things. So Google Alerts is very similar. I prefer TalkWalker. It comes into my email. It seems to be better somehow than Google. Socialmention.com is another useful tool. And this one actually searches the social web. So where Google and TalkWalker are mostly aimed at news sites and websites and commercial, socialmention.com also searches Twitter and will allow you to set up alerts for other social sites. So if, for example, I type into here, interactive fiction, don't know what will come up. I always like to caveat with, we are live on the web. I'm very sorry if anything rude comes up, but you never know. So let's see. So hopefully this will tell me anybody talking about interactive fiction. I would actually expect it to come up with the tweets I just wrote this morning. Yeah? So here we are. So lots of people talk. A brief summary of interactivity, revolution, evolution, narrative. That looks really exciting. Yeah? It also means not only have I found this post, but I found this blogger. So I've not only just found one article, I've actually found a rich seam of articles, because this guy obviously blogs about, he's on WordPress, look, and he's doing a brief summary of interactivity, which is brilliant. This is a really good website, Rock Paper Shop. This is Emily Short, who's a very famous interactive fiction writer, and she's just done a blog post all about time travel interactive fiction, which I had already seen, but if I hadn't, it would have come up here. Here's somebody on Twitter talking about an interactive fiction game. So you can see how useful this is in terms of just giving me some idea of what's going on. Notice over on the right that I can actually set an email alert from here as well. So I can have an email alert coming up that tells me whenever anybody adds something to this conversation, I can be alerted about it. I can also export the data to a CSV if I want to have a look at it. And I can also sort by date. You know, there's various things I can have a look at, so the last hour, the last month. On the left-hand side, if we look at this data, it's telling me who what sentiment is. So it's giving an idea of sentiment analysis, are people positive, negative, or neutral about it. And then it's also telling me, and this is useful, the top keywords. So if you need to know the answer to the question, what do people talk about when they talk about X? This is a tool that can help you. Because when you're thinking about your blog, when you're thinking about, I want to talk about, a student last year did one that was menus that went with films, which I thought was a really cool idea. But what she wanted to find out what people were interested in, who were interested in both food and films, what other content could she be curating around that topic that would then make her attract the right audience for what she was talking about. And then again, if we go down on the left-hand side, we should see that we find out who the top users are, what the top hashtags are, and even what the top sources are. So Twitter, mostly, Topics and WordPress. I've never heard of Topics before, must be some sort of blogging platform. Yes, it's a great way to be alerted to where people are talking about the subjects that you are interested in. So we've looked at Google Alerts you've seen before, TalkWalker Alerts, socialmention.com. Also just a quick mention to trending topics, which Facebook has now picked up as well as Twitter. So we can see that I've got my trending topics on Twitter set to leads. And I can change that to the world, I can change that to the UK. And what this means is I can just find out what people are talking about at the moment and maybe do something in keeping to jump on that hashtag, yeah? No, the trends is just location, yeah. Okay, so we heard Dan talking earlier about keywords for search engine optimization, and I just wanted to point out that when you're writing content for your blog, you're obviously thinking about, I want my content to be found. When you're writing for your website, I want my content to be found. So you're needing to think about what are the search terms people are putting into Google that will bring up my content. Ideally, what are the questions they are asking? What are the keywords they're using? Some of the questions they might ask, and I know some of my students have done this before because we've done it in class, but it's a good tip, is when you go to Google, you can ask half a question. So I ask Google, why do students? And off it goes. Misbehave, plagiarise, get discounts, go to university. What this is telling me, this is Google autofill, is it's telling me these are the topmost questions, the top most often asked questions about this subject. So if I do something like on YouTube, how do you get paid? How do you see your subscribers? How do you get money? How do you delete history? Yeah? So these are some of the things, if I'm a YouTuber and I'm blogging, these are maybe even the titles of some blog posts. Actually ask those questions and then answer them in a blog post, and it's a way of getting to the top of Google. If we have a look at this one, see what comes up top. This one's 2015, look. This one's 2015. So I can't see any 2016s, can't see any 2017s. Might be due, somebody should do a blog post on it, yeah? Because we know, as Dan said, Google is constantly updating. And if you have great content velocity, if you Google often, if you blog often, if you use free content, if you stream your social media content into your website in order that your tweets and your posts all come up in the same place, that means you've got great content velocity, which means Google is going to look at you very favourably. So one of the things I like to do is find a question that's bang on topic for my audience. Just check that nobody really big has written about it in the last few years or so. And if it's a 2015 one, you've probably got a good chance of getting to the top of Google for it. The other thing to think about when you're thinking about being found for things is to think about on Google, people will just use it like the Oracle and ask questions. And they will also use search terms, where on social media they might do something more like, I don't know, I'm a bit skint, you know, if I'm a moneylender or I'm a bank or I'm somebody who's giving budgeting advice. I know some of my students are blogging about budgeting advice. Here we are, I'm Birdie, I'm a bit skint. Okay, so not many people using that. You can see how different it is. Your results are different when you start using colloquial language. Twitter, Facebook, they're like overhearing conversations. So you can think about what you think people will be searching for. I did some work for a company that sold wheel goo, which basically makes your tyres unpuncturable. And we did an outreach strategy with people. We found 100 people on Twitter that were tweeting things like, I've got my second puncture of the week, or here's my puncture, or look at this puncture, or whatever. We looked at their clout score, which I'll come to in a minute. We looked at whether they were blogging, and if they sort of fitted our criteria as an online influencer, we sent them a free pack of wheel goo and asked them to fill in a survey about it. And it was very successful. They redesigned our packaging for us. They changed the colour of the product from green to purple. And also they told us some new markets that we weren't using at the moment, particularly pushchairs. We didn't realise that pushchairs often got punctures. I didn't know that. So that was really useful for us. Hashtags. The other thing, just quickly, I'm sure you all know what a hashtag is. We have one for my class, which is live at the moment, which is a class on online storytelling. And brilliant, Sophie has tweeted about Dan. Well done, Sophie, in the last lesson, and Elsie's tweeting as well. So these are all the ones around my class, but you can also look at things like, and this is a risky one, but I just want to show you something. This is Leeds United Football Club. First of all, notice when you search on a hashtag or search on anything, it automatically defaults to top. And what we want to do is look at what's happening live, so just let's look at the latest. Okay? This might get rude because it's football supporters. What we find when we use LUFC as a search term is once you start looking, we should find, any minute now, oh gosh, it's all about betting, look. MOT, this is another one. Yeah, anyone know what MOT stands for? It's Leeds United song, Marching On Together. So what we're discovering is that on Twitter there's a group that identifies as Leeds United fans. Then there's a group that identifies as MOT. There's also Leeds family. There's also #Twitterwites. Yes, there's quite a few families within that. So once you find a hashtag, it's very useful just to find the other hashtags around it. Now you can do it manually the way I have, or there is actually a site called hashtagify.me. And this allows you to put in a hashtag once you've found it and find out when people talk about that hashtag, what else are they talking about? Taking a while. So here's one for health. So when people talk about health, and I know a lot of my class are doing health blogs, they talk about workout, food, diet, fit, nutrition, weight loss. This one isn't particularly illuminating, is it? But you can see the idea is that you can start really drilling down on those different hashtags and almost get a whole area of subject matter for your blog. These could be your blog categories. You know, if you were doing something about health, all of these might be your blog categories because you know they're highly associated in your readers' minds. And then the other thing to realise about hashtags is that on Twitter there are lots of live Twitter chats. People launch their products. People have parties. There was even Sherlock did a whole case on Twitter. Did anybody see that one? You could solve the whole case and follow it on Twitter, and they posted videos and photographs of the crime scene. And Sherlock was supposedly tweeting live. So that was really good fun. So you can do all sorts of things on Twitter. Just understanding that some things are live. So one of the ones I'm involved in is HELT chat? That's it. So there's actually a Twitter account called LTHE chat. It happens on a Wednesday night between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And if I click on #LTE chat, actually that's the wrong hashtag. It's LTHE chat. Yeah, so these things happen live. Often it's really useful if there's a television programme on that's about your subject, you know, or vaguely related. Go online and tweet live at the same time. Do what's called second screening and have a look and join in those conversations. I know we've got a few escape room owners here. You know, whenever the Crystal Maze is on, when it comes in, that's when you should be online tweeting. Yeah, that's when you're going to attract your audience. Because anybody who watches a Crystal Maze might have a go at an escape room. Okay, so we've listened. And once we've listened, we want to identify where are the conversations happening. I remember I was doing some work for a building society. And we wanted to find out where people were talking about mortgages online. And we found an online forum called Piston Heads, which you know, is supposed to be for sort of men in sheds and things. But it's actually a massive forum. And so we sponsored a forum chat on there. Who are the thought leaders? Who are the people who are really leading the way in this? And I don't necessarily mean celebrities. I mean thought leaders. Who are the people that say, you know, this is the way the future is going? Who are the people who already have the eyes and ears of your audience? They're the people, they're the influencers. And there's also people who are curating and commentating. I'm very much a curator. I curate an awful lot of stuff. I've got a lot of Twitter followers because I curate lots of stuff. I'm not a great blogger. You know, I do blog, but actually I curate more than anything else. And who has the influence? You know, who are people looking to for advice? Who are people following? I'm happy to share the slides with you, Kim. So then once we've listened and we've identified these, and we'll have loads of them. My second year module in online community management, you know, they've identified something that they're launching a card game. They've identified 98 Facebook groups alone that are relevant for this card game launch. But we need to think about actually 80% of them, or 20% of them, will have 80% of the impact. Yeah, Pareto's or this 20-80 thing. So what are the 20% of this that I can concentrate on, which will give me 80%? No marketer will ever try and get to the whole audience. You've got to somehow narrow it down. Maybe look at people's clout score. So clout is a measure of your influence, 0 to 100. Who's measured their clout score recently? Excellent, good. What did you get, Mike? Because I know you only went on Twitter yesterday. 10. So the only way is up then. Okay, so this is my clout score, 59, which isn't bad for me. It's not good for me. I think the highest I've ever been is 62. and it's a logarithmic curve. And what Clout does is it allows you to see who is knowledgeable and who is knowledgeable in what subjects. So you can go and see if somebody's interacting with you on Twitter or Facebook, you can go and look at their Clout score and you can see whether they're worth actually interacting with, or you're going to ignore them. The other reason I like Clout is it watches what you tweet about and what gets response, and then it gives you suggestions. So as you know, I ran an escape room and game jam on Tuesday. Already the content it's suggesting is changing based on the number of people I was interacting with on Tuesday that were talking about games. It's already realised I don't have that in my profile anywhere. It knows this, and so it's suggesting to me, one, that I might like to read that content, but also that I might actually like to pass it on. I quite like it as well because it tells me if something's hot off the press. So if I'm the first person to present something to an audience, that's quite good to know. And I can just tweet it straight from here. So if I decide I'm going to do 7 painful blogging problems and how to solve them, I can go and have a look at it and read it. And when I've read it, I can choose to share it. And because I've plugged in all of my social media channels, in this case just Facebook and Twitter, it writes the tweet for me, puts the link in for me, and schedules it for me. I don't have to do anything else. So it's really useful for curating content to pass on to your audience to establish your area of expertise and interest. Another one that you might want to have a look at is Twitter lists, which I'll just show you. This is the LTHE tweet chat. On their profile, this isn't always there, but if somebody is on a Twitter list, it will show up on their profile. So I can click on this, and these are generally handmade. Some of them are made by robots. But here's a list of all of the people who facilitate the Learning and Teaching HE chat. 10 members. That's 10 people I should really be following if I'm interested in learning and teaching in HE. So I can actually go have a look at that list. I can go down the left-hand side and I can look at list members. So at the moment I'm looking at live tweets. And then I can decide, if I want to follow these particular people. So I can just go down and say, okay, I know these are all learning and teaching experts in higher education. They're people I should be following. Or I could just subscribe to the list, which means I'll be able to see all of their tweets in context, but they wouldn't know I was following them. So I wouldn't have to spend some of my following points on following them. And I think, for me, lists are the gold seam in the coal mine of Twitter. It's really useful when you get put on a list. Check your own profile. You'll get a little notification up here that you've been put on a list. And when you're put on a list, what that means is everybody else who's on that list is someone who, for some reason, is like you. So those are the sorts of people you should be, talking to online and getting to know and swapping blog posts with and things. And then just finally, one of the tricks that the National Front Party use, Britain First, and all of these really far-right movements used in the run-up to Brexit, was they tweet something like, or they put on Facebook, here's our hard-working nurses. If you love the NHS, pass this on. And so people followed and liked and passed on their stuff, and in fact it was all just, link baiting, clickbaiting and like baiting, and in fact what the organisation behind it, for many of us, is not something that we would want to be associated with. So just be careful. Think about whether the people that you are promoting, whether the people that you are retweeting their stuff and sharing their stuff actually match your values or not. And when I work with clients, we actually create a whitelist, people we want to notice us, and we'll put them on a private list so that we can see when they're tweeting online and we can talk to them. And then we also have a blacklist where we say these are the people, because it's very easy when you go into work for a client not to know who their direct competitors are if they don't tell you. There's nothing worse for a client than accidentally retweeting one of their competitors. Yeah, so this becomes really, really important when you're dealing with commercial clients. Okay, and then just quickly, so we've listened, we've identified, we've focused, and then we're going to engage. And the way to engage is to be someone's audience first. You don't go to the theatre and stand on the stage. Be in their audience. Be a bit of a cheerleader for a while. Retweet them. Yeah? Follow them. Put them on a list. Put them on a list that says, I don't know, I could put Bob on a list that was genius YouTube presenters. And you'd probably go and look and see who's put me on this list, and you probably give me a little follow, yeah, because I've been, you know, so it's about you know, sort of playing to people's egos a little bit, I think. Get on their radar by having conversations with them. If you can see that they're in a Twitter chat, or you can see that they use certain hashtags, use the same ones. Share their stuff. One of the things I find most successful is to actually find something on their blog from their Twitter. They'll have a link on their Twitter. Share that and then give them credit. And they're so pleased that you've gone to their blog, you've read an article, and then you've bothered to thank them and credit them. But generally, you know, they like you, you get a little follow back. And that's the point at which you can say, ask, can I come and guest post with you? Can I do an interview with you? Will you come and guest post on my blog? Yeah? So slowly, catchy monkey, yeah? And then repeat. You know, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak, or 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that order, as my mum used to say, but apparently that was Epictetus, some Greek philosopher or other. But really it's about continuing to listen and continuing to react, rather than thinking about first, what shall I say? Think about first, what does my audience want to hear? And then just finally, just to say, you can use these tools to listen to customers, influencers, competitors, and collaborators. And just to put that in context, I've shared with you, you should have a handout of the virtual peer map, which just says, okay, let's look at audiences in a different way. We've got people who are selling a non-competing product or service. Imagining you're selling wedding dresses. These might be people who are florists, photographers, venues, cake makers. These might be people who are selling a non-competing product or service. Other dressmakers are selling a competing product or service, yeah? Then we've got people who are talking to the same audience as us, and people who are talking to a different audience. So again, escape rooms can be used for corporate team building, or they could be used for hen parties. That's 2 completely different audiences, yeah? And what I then do is have a look at, okay, there's quite obviously competitors down here. If they've got a competing product and service, and they're talking to the same audience as us, in the same location, particularly in the case of high street businesses, then they're a competitor. And we need to use tactics like search engine optimization on social media. Shadow them on social media. I have successfully been shadowed by people when I've had an upsetting experience, and I've talked about it on Twitter. A competitor has got in touch with me and then said, you know, come and buy my product instead. And I've gone, okay then, I'll give that a go, why not? So you can actually start servicing their customers right in front of their noses on these social media platforms. If you have the same audience in a non-competing product or service, so we have Nathan, who's a escape room owner from London, and you're, where are you from, Kim and Mike? In Kent, and I'm up in Leeds, so we don't compete. So we're here to collaborate, we're here to learn from each other, we're here to set up hopefully a UK body. So these are collaborators, we can jointly influence. We can get cheaper insurance, for example, mutually amplify and practically partner. What could we do that creates a buzz? Could we have a National Escape the Room Day? You know, what could we all get behind that would benefit all of us because we are collaborating, not competing? Over here, you have people who are actually talking to a different audience, and I call these trailblazers. They've taken a similar product to yours that competes with yours, and in fact, they've found a whole new audience for it. So, for example, taking escape rooms into schools as part of education. Yeah, that's a really good idea. So I'm going to follow them into the market. After all, they're going to be doing all the hard work, educating the clients about what it is we offer them. We're going to niche an offer, we're going to extend our audience. And then the final one is if it's a different audience, non-competing product or service. This is just if you're online and you see something really cool. So, for example, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I can think. Oh, and I remember the Old Spice adverts. They were really cool. I really liked those. Pinched that idea. The Doritos adverts, where they did a whole design your own advert for Doritos, and we will give £10,000 to the winner. So they got something like 15,000 videos posted online about Doritos, which was really a very cheap £10,000, I think. Very good value, £10,000. So the other thing is, do look outside as well. And when you see something that's really cool online, if it's an offer or if it's a way of speaking to customers or a part of the customer journey, think about how you can pull in that best practice, adopt it and adapt it for yourselves. and use, just, you know, when you're browsing, use it for inspiration and as something to aspire to. We can't all afford all the bells and whistles to start with, but we can think about what would work for us. So I hope that's been useful for you. I don't know, we're going to have a panel at the end, aren't we, Bob? So I won't take questions now, just hang on to them. Bob's